and welcome. My name is Jocelyn. This is my channel and today we are doing a tag video. So this tag was created by Kelly Gooch. I will leave her video linked down below to give her credit. And this is the if I could only keep one tag. Yes, so if I could only keep one from each of the following categories. If I could only keep one foundation, primer, concealer, eyeshadow palette, bronzer, blush, all of that jazz. It was definitely difficult for me, but I can see how it would be even more difficult for someone who had an even larger collection. With that being said, if I had more of each of these products, I might have chosen something else. Some of these categories were really easy for me. I immediately was like, that's the product that I could use for the rest of my life and be satisfied, and some of them were a little more difficult. So let's go ahead and just get started. The first category is primer. So this is a face primer, and I don't always use primer. I kind of don't feel like they totally work for me 100%, but when I do find them helpful is when I have a very heavy foundation on. If I've got something really heavy, kind of cakey, because I am very oily, sometimes those work the best for me when I know I'm going to be either sweating or wearing this foundation for a long time. I want something that's moisturizing and very beneficial for my skin underneath. So something that I think I could use for the rest of my life is the Too Faced Hangover RX Replenishing Face Primer. And I know I've talked about this on my channel before. I find that this just makes my skin feel good. It just makes it feel better than some primers do, and also by the end of the day when my skin has just had enough of the stuff that's been sitting on it, this I think can really help. And again, I don't use primers every day, but when I do, I like to use something normally that is good for my skin. This is also silicone free, so that's pretty great. The next category is foundations, and so this was actually immediately easy for me. If you would have asked me a couple years ago, I might have had a little bit more trouble, but the foundation that I have grown to absolutely love and no longer really have a color because the color is always sold out that I am in currently is the Fenty foundation. And for me personally, absolutely love this foundation. I think it works remarkably well for me. When it fades throughout the day, for one, it doesn't fade that bad at all, but I am very oily. My skin gets very oily. This wears off really so nicely. It doesn't go patchy, it doesn't get weird. My oil kind of mixes with the foundation and it just almost looks better throughout the day. I mean, if I wore this for like 24 plus hours, it might not look that great, but most foundations wouldn't. This foundation I could 100% use for the rest of my life. So the concealer, so I haven't used too many different concealers, and some of the ones I have used are from non-cruelty free brands, so I can't count them. But one concealer that I have found works really good for my under eyes is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Aqua Concealer. I know I've also talked about this on my channel before because I just find it works so well. It stays put throughout the day but isn't too drying, and I can use under my eyes along with covering the rest of my face, so any spots that I might have. I have found that the Shape Tape concealer can get kind of drying under my eyes. I didn't realize that until kind of recently, or maybe within the last 6 months, that I tend to get dry in my under eye area. The rest of my face of course gets super oily, but my under eyes can get dry, so whatever that means. But this I think I could use for the rest of my life. I just think it works really well on my skin, under my eyes, stays put, isn't too drying, and I just enjoy quite a bit. I also think the bottle is really cute. It's got this glass kind of frosty tint to it, and then I really like this gradient up here. I think it's just really cute, and it's also got a doe foot applicator on the inside, which is quite handy. So moving on to bronzers. So I tend to use bronzers like every day, but I don't really have a favorite. If I had to choose a favorite, I think I would go with one of the shades in the Kat Von D face palette. Wait, Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. There we go. And I would go with this shade right here. So this is the shade Subconscious in this palette. I do tend to use both of these shades when I use this palette, but I think if I could only choose one, I want to say I would choose this one because it's cooler toned, and for some reason I like that more. I'm not really sure. But yes, so I think I would choose this one. I probably just need to try more bronzers to see which one I like the most. I have found that I'm just kind of on it, but out of all the ones that I've tried and all the ones that I have in my collection, I think I would go with this one. This is the Kat Von D Subconscious shade. So next we have blushes, and I do have a lot of blushes in my collection, but I also have a lot of face palettes that I use. But I didn't want to choose a palette. I wanted to choose a single blush. I went back and forth on all of the ones in my collection, and the one that I went with is one that I thought could go with a lot of different eye looks and one that I just liked in general. And so the one that I ended up going with is a Bareminerals powder blush, and I don't hear these talked about too much on YouTube anymore, but this is one that I really enjoy, and this is in the shade Golden Gates, and I just find that these go on so nice on the skin. They're pigmented, they're pretty, they're buildable. I've got quite a bit built up here, but this is what this shade looks like. It's a little peachy, it's a little rosy, so I think it could go with so many different eye looks, and I do just really enjoy this shade. And I mean, powder blushes can be a little difficult to work with, but I don't think I would have a problem with that, and the more you use it, the easier it is to use. I think that I would really enjoy using this every day for the rest of my life. As scary as that might be, but yes, I think I would have no problem combining this with any eye look that I chose to do. So next we have highlight, and I went back and forth between two different highlights that I have, and they're quite different, the both of them. So the one I initially thought I was gonna grab was the Wet n Wild Mega Glow highlighting powder, because I really love this. This is in the shade Precious Petals. I think that these are just stunning. I know that they don't work for absolutely everybody, but I find them super pigmented, super pretty, but this particular shade is a little bit dark for me in the dead of winter when I'm just got no tan at all going on, so I don't think I could use this all year round. That being said, the other one that I tend to really like and use quite often is one that most people don't like, so I think this is going to be really interesting. The one that I actually really love and I'm super happy that I have in my collection is one of these Too Faced Love Light Prismatic highlighters, and this is in the shade Blinded by the Light. So this is what this looks like. I love this. So this is the only one I have. I didn't try the other two. There's one that's a gold shade that obviously wouldn't work for my skin tone, and then there's a rose gold shade, which is almost the one that I got, but there were so many negative reviews on that one that I went with this one instead. So this is kind of the ivory champagne color. It's so pretty, but it's also very wearable for me. It's one of the best highlighters for my skin tone. I don't know how. So, I mean, you can see that right there, and let's see. I mean, it doesn't really pick up too much on camera because I'm so gosh darn pale. Here, let's just like put a little bit. I really like this, and I could 100% use this for the rest of my life. I think it works for my skin tone pretty much all year round, and I love this. I could use this for the rest of my life. So Kelly included a face brush and an eye brush in this tag, which I thought was really interesting, to limit yourself to one face brush and one eye brush, which I definitely found very challenging, but I think I'm okay with my decisions. So the face brush that I think I could use is the Morphe E6 brush. So this is a flat buffer brush. Of course, you can use it for buffing in your foundation. I also think I could use it to press in face powder, because I use a setting powder every day, so I think this would work really good to press in a powder. I also think that you could use the edges to carve out a contour if you wanted, and then to buff it in, along with, I guess, pressing in a blush. Highlighter, I'm not so sure. I guess you could kind of tap it into the side and then just kind of like brush it on and then buff it in. So I think this could work for most of my face items. I think I could do it all with this brush. And I do really enjoy this brush in general. It just works really well, and I think I could accomplish everything I need to accomplish with it. So the eye brush I chose, I'm actually pretty happy with this decision also, and it is a Colourpop eye brush. So I think this was a special edition when they first launched their eyeshadow brushes. I believe they still have it on their site as a blending brush. It's quite dirty, so please ignore that. It's fluffy enough that I think you could get quite a bit of blending in there, but it's also flat enough that I think you could pat on eyeshadow, and you could also wet it to put on a metallic shadow. So I think you could do just about everything with this, between blending, patting on an eyeshadow, and putting on a metallic shadow. So I'm very happy with my choice in this one. So lipsticks, if I would have filmed this video before I went cruelty free, I'm almost positive I would have chosen a MAC lipstick, because there were quite a few that I had that were absolute favorites, but MAC is not cruelty free. So I recently picked this up. It was actually in a recent haul of mine, but I have fell deeply in love with it, and I think I could wear this for the rest of my life if I had to. And this is a lipstick by Urban Decay. It is one of their comfort matte formulas in the shade Hideaway. This is what it looks like. It's a super wearable color. It is a rose color. I think it could pair with so many different eye looks. It's so unbelievably comfortable. I think think, in my opinion, on my lips. It doesn't wear away weird. It wears for a long time because it is a matte formula, but again, it's a comfort matte, which I completely agree with. It's comfortable, but it also is matte. I love this. I think it could go with almost every eye look I could come up with, and it just wears great. So this is the lipstick I would choose. All right, so the final product that we are going to be talking about is an eyeshadow palette. So the only eyeshadow palette that I could use for the rest of my life. This one I think was the most challenging for me, as you know, expected, because as most of us in the beauty community, eyeshadow palettes are a bit of my kryptonite and one of the most collected items in my makeup collection. And so I kind of gravitated between 3 different palettes. So let me share that with you. The palette that I initially was like, I think that's the one that I would choose, is the Huda Beauty palette. And so I thought that because this is a gorgeous palette. I think it's beautiful. I think it's fun. It's exciting. There are a lot of neutral shades in here as well as pops of color that I thought I could use. But then I thought, it's not super versatile, so I don't know if I could use this for the rest of my life and this be the only palette that I used. And so that's kind of where it stopped there. But this was the first palette that I thought, yeah, maybe this one. But then I was like, it's not quite versatile enough and not quite usable for every single day for the rest of my life. So that one got pushed away. And now the other 2 were very similar. And even in this moment, I'm kind of going back and forth. The 2 palettes that I'm going between is the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette and the Sweet Peach Too Faced palette. I wanted to say the Jaclyn Hill because there is so many colors in it. It's beautiful. There's lots of shimmers, there's lots of mattes, there's lots of colors. But my biggest hang up with this one is there's not a matte setting shade in it. There are these 2 light shades right here, but they're very satiny. They're not really used for setting the eye. And so I don't know if I could use this because I don't have that matte cream white shade to set my eye look with. But this is definitely a high contender in there. So then I thought, okay, well, what about the Sweet Peach palette? It is got a couple pops of color in here. It's got a lot of neutrals in here. It's got lots of mattes and lots of shimmers in here. I think this is the one that I would choose. I'm pretty positive that this is the one I choose. As I said in the beginning of the video, I don't have every makeup item in my collection. There's a lot of palettes that I don't have. So my answer to this might change in a year. I might pick up a palette in the next year that I would say, nope, this is the palette that I could use for the rest of my life. This has a matte cream shade that I can use, but it doesn't have all of the variety that I maybe would have wanted. But this is still a beautiful palette. This is still a palette that I think I could use every day. I can get a lot of wearable shades. I can get a lot of sultry looks out of here. There's lots of colors. We've got some purples and greens, lots of peaches. So I think I could use this one for the rest of my life. But again, if I did this in a year from now or 2 years from now, a lot of these answers may be different, especially the eyeshadow palette answer. But for now, based on the collection that I have, I think I would use the Too Faced palette. If the Jaclyn Hill palette had that matte white shade in it, I would choose this one, hands down. I love this palette. I think it's beautiful, but it doesn't have that shade that I use every single day when I do my eye makeup. So I can't choose this one. So those are all my picks for the if I could only keep one tag. What are your answers? Please let me know in the comments down below. Please check out Kelly's video if you haven't already, but I'm sure you have already because she's great and amazing and she's got great content. But if for some reason you haven't, check out the description down below because I will have her video there. Again, I'd love to know your answers to these, especially your maybe eyeshadow palette or the lipstick that you would choose, or even the highlighter or blush, really any of these. I'd love to know your answers down in the comments below. So I'm very interested to hear, but the palette I think especially, because it's interesting to see if someone could only use one palette for the rest of their life, what would it be? I'm really curious to know your answer. So if you liked this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps me out and makes me feel great. Also, if you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing down below. It's right just down there. And that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.